Ahead of his return to the ring on May the 1st against Chris Arreola, former unified heavyweight world champion Andy Ruiz reflects on the aftermath to his loss against AJ back in December of 2019. We're going to talk about that on this video. Welcome back to the channel, people. Of course, you are tuned in to Talk to Budge, and it's your boy Budge here, bringing you some news live and direct. Before we get into the topic of this particular video, please make sure you wipe your feet. You're more than welcome to hang here with me, but I need you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, sign up to all notifications. So whenever any new video drops, which is on a daily basis, you're always the first to find out about it. We're growing this platform from the ground up, from the grassroots. And in order for me to build it, I need your support. I need your help, man. So please like and subscribe, and also share the content with your friends, your family members, your WhatsApp group chats, and all the rest of it, man. Let's grow this platform together. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share your thoughts, share your views. I'm talking to you, but the platform's called Talk to Budge, which means I need you to talk to me. And the best way for us to do that is through the comments, man. So leave your comments, leave your thoughts, and let me know what you think on the topic that we're talking about, which of course, as I mentioned in the intro, is all about Andy Ruiz, who is returning back to the ring against Chris Arreola on May the 1st. Now, we will remember the last time Andy Ruiz was in the ring was in his rematch against Anthony Joshua back in December of 2019. Now, rewind even further, or a few months prior to that, in June of 2019, AJ made his debut in America at Madison Square Garden against Andy Ruiz. And against all odds and all expectation, he was stopped in the 7th round by Andy Ruiz, who then, of course, became the unified heavyweight world champion. And then, of course, they had the immediate rematch in December of 2019. Now, ahead of his fight against Chris Arreola, Andy Ruiz was basically speaking. Recently, he had a press conference kind of thing that he was doing ahead of that fight. And he was reflecting on, this period between now and after that AJ fight and what he's been doing and so on and so forth. And he basically was just speaking about how he went through a period of depression, against all odds and against all expectation. He beat AJ in the first fight. And then, he became an overnight celebrity, pretty much, because whilst he had been in world title fights before that, of course, his first loss was against Joseph Parker. It was a loss that a lot of people debate was a contentious one, and some people had him beating Joseph Parker. But that was his first loss, and his second loss only to AJ. So he's only got 2 losses on his record, both in world title fights. He's never been stopped. But ultimately, he was a bit of a nobody before that AJ fight. No one really was checking for Andy Ruiz. And in that fight, he defied all odds and he beat AJ. Now, after that, obviously, it being the biggest payday of his career up until that point in time, he naturally started living life a little different, He was wearing less and going out more. He was, out on the town. He was turning up here, there, and everywhere at all the clubs. He was buying the latest jewels. He was spending money on chains and watches and flashy cars and... that fight changed his life. It changed his family's life and his family's fortunes. He spoke about the fact that it afforded him the luxury of being able to buy a house for his mum and all that kind of stuff. And in the rematch against AJ later on that year, we saw a very different Andy Ruiz. he wasn't as committed. He wasn't as dedicated. He came in that second fight 15 and a half pounds heavier than he weighed in the first fight. He wasn't committed. We heard even afterwards rumors coming out about him not being committed to training. He had a bit of a bust up with his trainer, who was saying that he was uncoachable basically, and he wasn't turning up to the gym, and he wasn't dedicating, and so on and so forth. And by his own admission, he says the exact same thing, Andy Ruiz. In some of those quotes, he says, and I quote verbatim, "Losing in my last fight against Anthony Joshua, it was devastating, because I did not do the things that I was supposed to do. And I look back right now and I'm like, damn, man, if I would have stayed dedicated, if I would have stayed disciplined and do the right things that I was supposed to do. And that was the most important fight of my life in the rematch against Anthony Joshua. But now it's totally different. Now I got my mind right, I got a great trainer. So we're just ready for May the 1st. But like I said, of course, I was really disappointed because I knew I had the ability to stay as champion. And he even, in the same interview, he speaks about the fact that he even went through a period of depression after that AJ fight, just thinking about the opportunity that he squandered. He was basically speaking about the fact that he was really, really sad, really upset, and he went through a period of depression, like not really knowing what to do next or where to go next, and thinking that he doesn't really, have a chance anymore, and that he basically blew his opportunity. And how he managed to get through that now when he's on the up and up, and he's looking forward to get his career back on track. And I think it is a brilliant thing that he's getting back in the ring against Chris Arreola, who is a great comeback fight. I mean, he's a decent name because of the fact that he's been around for ages and he's got a decent record. So his record is 38-6. 33 wins coming by way of knockout. In his 6 losses, he's only been stopped 3 times. And those were against Vitaly Klitschko, Bermane Stiverne, and Deontay Wilder, right? So he's only been stopped against top of the totem pole opposition. But of course, he's past his best. And ultimately, this is just a stay busy or return to the ring fight for Andy Ruiz. He should comfortably beat Chris Arreola. And I think, ultimately, that's what he's expected to do against that level of opposition at this stage of his career. But I think it's great that he's in good spirits. He's got back into the gym. He's not with his previous trainer. He's now with Eddy Reynoso, who is, of course, Canelo Alvarez and Ryan Garcia's coach. And just watching him on social media, looking at his Instagram videos and looking at progress pics, you can see he is absolutely dedicated again. In terms of getting back into shape and getting back to where he feels and he now belongs. He's performed at world level. He's won a world title, so he believes that he's back at that level. And ultimately, he's only got 2 losses on his record. He's only lost to AJ and he's only lost to Joseph Parker. So he still is a guy who is a formidable opponent, a live opponent. We saw in both of those AJ fights. The first fight, he obviously stopped AJ, and in the second fight, AJ had to box at distance. He had to fight from the outside. He didn't want to get caught up in any inside fighting with Andy Ruiz, because we know that Andy Ruiz has a great chin, and he also has very, very fast. He's very deceptively fast. He's got fast hands and he's got a granite chin. So on the inside, he's not the kind of guy that you want to be mixing it up with. So he absolutely is, at that level and should, still continue to pursue fights of people in and around that conversation. Again, he should comfortably win against Chris Arreola, which is what we expect. And then after that, we want to see what's next for Andy Ruiz. I think personally, and I mentioned this in a previous video that I did, that after this fight, we should absolutely see Andy Ruiz getting in the ring and mixing it up with someone like a Dillian White or a Deontay Wilder. There was actually rumors of a potential fight with Deontay Wilder after the first AJ fight for Undisputed, because both of those fighters in Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz are signed to the PBC. So they're on the same side of the street. So ultimately that fight should be an easy fight to make. But we know good and well that none of those fighters in Andy Ruiz, in Dillian White, in Deontay Wilder, none of these guys are going to get a world title fight next, because we know already that AJ and Fury is the fight that is going to be made next, ultimately. So whilst they wait, they should absolutely mix it up with each other. I find no reason why they shouldn't. We shouldn't. Just because we're waiting for an undisputed fight between AJ and Fury doesn't mean the rest of the heavyweight division should be held up. And ultimately, I think whoever comes out on top out of those guys in that conversation, Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder, Dillian White, the winner out of those three, whoever ends up fighting each other, if they do, would have an even stronger claim to fighting for the world title, or fighting against the winner of AJ versus Fury. So ultimately, I think we shouldn't be waiting around, and we shouldn't be allowing the undisputed matchup to hold up any other brilliant fights that we could potentially have. I think we absolutely need to see those fights, and I would argue that those fights are big pay-per-view fights. They're absolutely huge. People would absolutely pay top dollar to see those fights, because, you know, even though there's not a world title on the line, they're still big names. They're still guys with great records. Again, when you look at it on paper, Deontay Wilder only has one loss. His only loss comes against Tyson Fury, who is arguably the best heavyweight in the division. Andy Ruiz only has 2 losses. His only 2 losses, one being a contentious one against Joseph Parker, and the other being arguably the best heavyweight in the division against AJ. Dillian White, he's only got 2 losses on his record. One against AJ, the other one against Povetkin, which he avenged in his last fight. So these guys all have great records still. And there's no reason why we shouldn't see them mix it up. But it's great to see. Ultimately, it's great to see that Andy Ruiz is back on the right path. It's great to see that Eddy Reynoso has instilled some discipline in him. This is the best shape that I've seen Andy Ruiz in. His legs, if you look at his recent videos, he's not been skipping leg day. He's been working hard. He's lost a lot of weight. He's looking trim. He's looking in shape. And I expect him to put in a brilliant performance against Chris Arreola when the two lock horns on May the 1st. But looking past that, because I do expect him to win. I don't expect him to overlook Chris Arreola, but I do want to see what happens next. Past that fight, I absolutely think that we should be seeing these guys mixing it up with each other. And there's no reason why we shouldn't see that happen. But that's my take on it. That's my perspective. That's my point of view. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to sign up to all notifications. So whenever I drop a video, you're first to find out about it. Please, please, please help me to build this channel. We're going all out, man. We're doing everything that we can. Look, we got merch. We got the backdrop, we got the intro, we got the promo videos, all of that, man. So please, 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 I need eyeballs on these things. I need people to see them. So help me to build this channel. And I'm going to catch you on the next video, man. Budge over and out.